he's here to debut his fashion line, Argyleculture. Okay, Russell, so tell us about your new clothing line.
When I got in the fashion business, there were no people of color, and there were no people from the hip-hop cultural contribution. That group had no expression. And so I got in, and then many companies followed. There were, I don't know, at one time, Macy's might have had 15 brands at one time. They had a Nietzsche and an Echo and a Rockaway and a Fat Farm and a Sean John and an LRG and a, this went on, and a Shady and so there's so many, right?
So, yes.
And then those people grew up, and there was nothing that spoke their language. So this next generation, if President Obama grew up on Fat Farm, right, and then he has to buy Ralph, which is fine. Ralph's a great inspiration for me, but doesn't speak his generation, not really, right? And doesn't speak the generation of another guy who I think is kind of funny. He's a comedian, obviously. I can be funny. Adam Sandler. He was wearing Fat Farm for years. I was
You know what he was? Yes, he was.
And then I saw him recently. He was wearing Fat Farm. I was like,
you're like, come on, we got to graduate.
Right, right. But he's a comedian, so he can get away with it. But really,
right.
most people would graduate to something, Lacoste, or Ralph, or some Tommy still. So there's a space. There's a white space. There's a place that there's no expression, and there's a big void. And Macy's is always first to fill voids.
Yes.
And so Terry Lundgren invited me in to distribute in Macy's, and I think it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, he's great. We got a chance to talk to him a little while back at Macy's Glamorama, running Russell Simmons. Tell us about the show.
It's fun. It premieres November 2nd, Election Day.
Election Day.
So after you vote,
go watch the show.
Vote, you can go home and watch the show. The editing and producing of the show and watching my executives do their work. Yeah. Because it's really about them.
And they've been with you for a long time. One since she was 15 or 16, right?
Yes.
Yes.
27 years Simone's been with me.
Yes, that is wonderful.
And Christina over here has been with me 14 years, but she doesn't like to say it.
She's like, no.
She's like, but Simone looks 27, and Christina looks almost 14 still.
It must be great to have such a positive environment, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys on the show too, but the show it's a women's network, and from a women's perspective, for the most part, they're interns who are kind of interesting. Their perspective is useful. It's what they see. They like all the companies and maybe a couple of hundred employees come through the main office. In my front office, they have a little bit of everything. They see a little bit of everything.
Yes.
And so from their perspective, you see Rush Communications.
And speaking of Rush Communications, you've built so many brands and you've leveraged them. You're absolutely commendable. But what about that aspiring entrepreneur out there that may not be so sure how to get there to where you are? What type of advice would you give them?
It's in the scripture. They say that hard work. In the yogic scripture, it said miracles are promoted by hard work, dedication, and lots of faith. And the resilience and lots of faith.
Yes.
So people, lots of times they quit on their dreams, but it's impossible to fail until you quit. And I tell people that because it may take a little longer than your business plan. In fact, it takes more resilience than most every time. There's some stumbling block, some teacher, some experience that teaches you more, and you take those experiences and you keep on your grind. And the thing is, you have to have faith that you're not going to starve, because no one starves.
That's right.
Like, no one's
right. It's a mindset. You say that a lot in your blogs and in your inspiration, your daily inspirations and things like that. And I love that you've been a vegan for 12 years.
Yeah.
And you study yoga and you practice yoga.
Yes.
So for those people who are thinking about getting into that lifestyle, what is that, from your perspective, what are the benefits?
Well, the yogic scripture is no different from the Quran or the Torah or the Bible. It's a handbook, it's an instruction book. So the Yoga Sutra is pretty simple, and it's not as many stories. The Bhagavad Gita would tell stories, but the Yoga Sutra is like a handbook, a guide to happiness. Because if you're a Christian, you call Christ consciousness bliss, right?
Yes.
Pure happiness, heaven on earth.
Yes.
Right. So the state of yoga is the same, and it's just a little simple step book. The scripture is. And so I would recommend, it enhances your faith if you're a Muslim, a Jew, or a Christian, or a Buddhist. It's just it's a handbook, the scripture is. And the practice is one that reminds you of happiness and promotes happiness. And the physical practice, obviously, is quite beneficial.
I have one more question for you before we go. I could sit here and talk to you all day. But you've commended rappers like 50 Cent, P. Diddy for their philanthropic endeavors. Could you tell us some of the things that you're doing to help the community?
Well, my show is lots of that. I mean, I run the Diamond Empowerment Fund, and we have a college in Africa, and we raise money for them. And in fact, I'm going to London next week and a big fundraiser for them. at that school. And then I have the Rush Foundation, Art Foundation. We underwrite art education for inner city schools. And I have the Hip Hop Summit, which is on the road doing.
Love that. Yes, and the website is really nice too.
Thank you.
Indeed.
And then I said we have the Rush Philanthropic Art Foundation, and we underwrite art education for inner city schools. And then I'm on the board of the Life Project for Africa and the Happy Hearts Foundation, and there's many. But those are the main charities that I'm involved in.
Is there anything else that you can say about just stepping into your personal style and owning it, because you definitely own yours?
Well, I think that it's an individual thing, obviously, but sometimes your personality is bigger than your clothes, and sometimes you're more. No, I mean it. You really have to. You have your personal expression, and you have and so if you wear something that's classic, that's in good taste, and it's a little subtle, then it allows you to be free to express yourself in a more meaningful way, as opposed to, your clothes don't have to scream at you or scream at someone so much. And this is, I think, Argyleculture is based in that kind of principle.
Thank you so much. All right, so for more about Russell Simmons, his clothing line, and his new show, just visit us online at WCIU.com.